This is Popi. His real name's Walter Nolte Armstrong, but we got him Popi.
Popi reads us stories, he gives us good hugs, he teaches us to shoot and to drive cars. He likes puzzles and games, he likes to be out in the country, and he loves his family. He is silly, he is sweet, and he is smart. He is a patriot.
Popi lives in Texas and is married to our Sandy, the love of his life. Popi has 4 kids, including our mom, and 13 grandkids. Our Popi is a veteran. This means he served in the military. His complete title in the U.S. Army was First Lieutenant Walter Nolte Armstrong. During his basic training, Popi was awarded the American Spirit Medal as the top graduate of over 800 graduates. Wow!
He went to Signal Officer Training School in Georgia, and then on to Military Intelligence School in Maryland. From there, he did a lot of things before heading to Vietnam. He experienced the first anti-war march on a military installation at Fort Dix. He took flying lessons and received his pilot's license. And before he was deployed, he married my Sandy and took her to Europe for a month. Ooh la la. In 1970, he went to Vietnam with the 179th Military Intelligence Detachment, which was attached to the 199th Light Infantry Brigade. This is where he was promoted to First Lieutenant. In Vietnam, he was awarded service medals, 2 Bronze Stars, and 2 Air Medals. Wow!
He's accomplished a lot in his life, and we're awful proud of our Popi, and are especially grateful for his sacrifice to protect our country. He is a great man, but he had a hero to look up to. Popi has a lot of great stories, and we'll let him tell you some of them. But first, let us introduce you to his father, my great-grandfather, Colonel Burton W. Armstrong.
My great-grandfather, Colonel Armstrong, joined the U.S. Army as a pilot before there was an Air Force. He flew with the Canadian Air Corps in England and then with the U.S. Army Air Corps. During World War II, he spent time in England and then went on to train military pilots at Randolph Air Force Base, where he served as the flight school commander. There he received much recognition for his flying skills and life-saving actions. 6 months after the war ended in 1948, he moved to Tokyo, Japan with his family. He served 3 years in Japan as the air attaché to General Douglas MacArthur, and then 3 years in the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. He retired in Alabama as commander at the Air War College at Maxwell Air Force.
My great-grandfather's close friends and family all called him Army because of his long military background, professionally loyalty, and job dedication. He won many awards and was widely recognized for his flying and training achievements.
What a hero my Popi had. It's no wonder he wanted to join the Army. But we'll let him tell you about that.
Now we'll hear from First Lieutenant Walter Nolte Armstrong.
So why did you decide to join the Army, Popi?
Graduated from college, I was working as a banker, and the Vietnam War was going on, and they were drafting young men to go into the military. I'd had ROTC in high school and in college, and I decided to go ahead and apply for direct commission into the military as an officer. It took 6 months since I applied for an intelligence program, and that was a long time. So they took me into basic training went into basic training for 6 weeks, and I finished the first part of it. But by the time I finished that part, my direct commission was accepted, and they put me into military intelligence. That's why I joined the military.
How did you get to be in military intelligence?
Olivia, you asked how I got to be in military intelligence. It was actually recommended to me by some generals that I knew, and it took a long time to do a background investigation on me. It took them 6 months. They had to check into all, had to talk to a lot of people that knew me and make sure that I was honest and trustworthy and could handle secrets well. And so I got it at the end of the 6 weeks, 6 months, when I received that, I got a top secret clearance, which is a hard clearance to get. It takes a lot of time. And then I went to Signal Officer Basics Training, where they teach you about different military secret, how to handle secrets from the intelligence, from the military signal type of intelligence, technical type things. And then I went to an intelligence school in New Jersey, and then I went to work for a full colonel who was responsible to the general of the post at Fort Dix. And at that post, I was able to be a high-level intelligence, get to handle high-level intelligence right away, as opposed to just being somebody they did not have the trust in, because they didn't know them that well. They knew me very well by the time I got my officer. By the time I became an officer.
What was the scariest moment that happened to you in Vietnam?
Jonathan, you asked about a scary moment in Vietnam. There were a lot of scary moments. Like the first one was when my commanding general, who had been one of the founders of the Special Forces of the Army, was killed. He was the first Vietnam U.S. general to be killed in Vietnam, and he was killed when he went in and was shot by a sniper. Another time was when an enemy artillery shell hit. I was in the latrine on an army post and went into went from there to the secure compound where I was working with some U.S. officers, and right afterwards an enemy artillery shell hit that latrine that I had been in a few minutes before, and that was pretty scary. Another time was when I was in actually an American compound, and a captain who had gone to West Point, he and a number of Americans had just been out on the perimeter. They'd been being shot at, and he came into our dorm room. I say dorm room, it was actually a tent with a bunch of cots on it, and he thought he had cleared his weapon. He's an experienced officer, but it shows accidents can happen to anybody. He cleared the round, the shell that was in the chamber of his rifle, but he forgot. I guess he was a little nervous, very nervous really, because of the conflict that had just been shot at. We forgot to take the ammunition out of the clip. He forgot to remove all the rounds that were in the clip, and so when he cleared the round that was in the chamber, he actually loaded his weapon with another round. And then you always, when you clear your weapon, you click, you shoot to make sure your chamber's empty. He did that, but it was on automatic, and it went brrr, like that. And everybody in the area on their cots hit the deck, and fortunately nobody was shot. It was just an accident that shows that anything can happen.
What languages did you speak in Vietnam, Popi?
James, you asked about languages that I used in Vietnam. As you know, I was very fortunate that I grew up in Japan, so I knew a little bit about the Oriental culture, and I studied languages in school, so I did speak Japanese, but it wasn't necessary there. The French that I learned was very useful. That's the reason I was selected to work with the French plantation owners when I did. But I think the most important thing was just because of understanding a variety of languages, and I specifically was familiar with the body language of the Oriental culture and the way of thinking a little bit. That helped me to understand and relate to the people there, whether they've been enemies before or whether they were ostensibly friends now. Anyway, it just helped me to relate to people.
What were the living conditions in Vietnam?
I got to live in Saigon. I got to live in a little remote area called Swan Lake, which is a U.S. Army place. Got to live in some hamlets, which was just South Vietnamese, and me. I got to live in a South Vietnamese Army post. I got to travel a lot. I had my own Jeep. I'll tell you a story in a minute. With a 50 caliber machine gun on the back of it. Because I was very mobile, we had to travel very fast and independently because they would shoot at us as we drove on the roads. Anyway, I went around a lot. I went to the beach area, I went to Saigon, to the big city and various places. To the hamlets, I lived in the hamlets also, where there was nothing there but a little fence, and truly if an enemy had ever wanted to come in, they could come in and take it over easily. It was a little South Vietnamese hamlet with a few South Vietnamese soldiers around, and really there weren't supposed to be any Americans there at all. The living conditions were, in general, when I was in an army area, I had sandbags around the buildings, so if they had artillery shells, they didn't land right on top of you. If they landed outside, you'd be protected. But I moved around a lot, and so in some places the living conditions were not very good at all. In other places they were pretty nice, like in Jackson Hole.
Do you have any funny stories from being in the Army?
Sure. Eleanor asked about funny stories while I was in Vietnam. Well, the answer is I did very few in Vietnam myself. There were a lot of tragedies and a lot of not funny things, but the really funny story was when I went on R&R, which was a time when you get a week off from Vietnam, and Sandy, who I had married about a year before, came to visit Hawaii, and I came to visit Hawaii. It was about halfway for both of us. We were there for a week, and she flew in and stayed with the commanding general of the U.S. Army of the Pacific, who happened to be a good friend of mine, and he invited her to stay. He'd been gone for a month, and he came in that night and had a Bible study session, and she asked her to join in. There were a lot of commanding generals and U.S. senator and political figures there, and then I came in the next day, but when she woke up in the morning, there was a band up outside of her window playing "The Eyes of Texas Are Upon You." She thought it was for her. It was actually for the general who was from Texas, and it was his birthday. He'd been gone for 40 days traveling all over the Pacific, and the band was outside of his window too, playing his birthday welcome. "The Eyes of Texas Are Upon You," and Sandy was joyful, thinking that it was for her. That was so funny for me when I got there later on that afternoon.
The eyes of Texas are upon you till Gabriel blows his horn.
Did you make a lot of friends?
Olivia asked if I made a lot of friends. I think when you're in a situation like Vietnam, you form a lot of close alliances or friendships with people, but you don't necessarily keep them up. You remember them over the course of many years. You don't necessarily keep them up because the memories that you have there are not the memories you like to live with. But there are friends that I know me, and I know them, and I think very highly of them, and a lot of respect. People from all walks of life.
What exactly was the war in Vietnam about?
Olivia asked what the war in Vietnam was about. I'm not sure anybody really understood it wholly, because the French had been in there trying to keep the communists, trying to protect their interest over there. The Chinese and the Russians were very interested in the North Vietnamese being communists like they were, and the North Vietnam wanted to take over South Vietnam, or take it back really from the French. And then when the French got out, we got in. We just kind of went in there to take over their interest, but the idea was to keep communism from spreading, and I think politically that was the reason we got in and stayed in as long as we did.
We love our Poppy, and we're awfully proud of him. We hope you enjoyed our video.
From sea